favorite team in the Bay Area. And on today, we're going to look at the top 50 free agents and try to find the perfect fit for the San Jose Sharks as they try to make a run to the playoffs next season. So we're going to look at some guys I picked out, and then some guys that, since we're doing this live, as we're doing every Thursday show, some guys that you want to see, and I'll pull up their stats and all that fun stuff. We can talk about them as well. So let's get at it.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm your host, JD Young, Fear the Finkature, as well as San Jose Hockey Now. And I want to thank you guys for making us your first Sharks listen. We're going to continue these Thursday live shows because it's fun. It's the summer, and it's kind of a fun thing to interact. So if you guys want to make sure that you're checking them out and know when we go live, make sure you guys are subscribing to us on YouTube. So all you got to do is search for Locked On Sharks on YouTube, and of course you can come hang out, chat with me. I'm more than happy to take your requests, and if not, you can always listen to us, of course, wherever you get podcasts. We are free and available: Apple, Spotify, Odyssey. You guys know where to listen to podcasts. So today's show wanted to look at the top 50 free agents. So Frank Cervelli of the Daily Faceoff, he released his list of the top 50 potential free agents, and kind of wanted to run through the list and see which guys the Sharks can actually just mark off because they're not going to be able to afford them, or just guys that don't really fit with the Sharks. So, the Sharks have made it a point that they want to try to make the playoffs next year. And I think, honestly, the best way for them to do that is not just hoping that their young guys take a huge leap, from like years 1 to 2 and 2 to 3, et cetera, but adding some proven NHL caliber talent who can provide some scoring impact. And that seems to be what the Sharks are lacking. I mean, we saw basically, if it wasn't Timo Meier and Tomas Hertl kind of driving the bus, the Sharks just struggled to score goals. And I think they're looking for someone who can really help ease the load on Hertl and Meier, so that way they're not having to do all the work and try to get some more goals, because the Sharks struggled so much just to score last year. So before we kind of get things started and looking at the list, let's kind of just see where the Sharks are at cap space wise, and it's hashtag not very good. So as of right now, Cap Friendly has them at about $6 million of projected cap space. Kind of some trade-offs here, because they have a bunch of guys they have 12 forwards called up right now, and a lot of them are like on the books and stuff like that. And a lot of these guys can go down, like Jasper Weatherby and Lane Peterson. Like some of these guys can go down, and they have both goalies. The other thing they have to keep in mind is Kevin LeBanc, who's on, and Kanejov are both on IR right now. So then those cap hits will, of course, count. And they do have the 3 goalies. Only 2 of the contracts are on the books right now. So they do, of course, want to still trade those away. So I mean, the big thing is they're going to have to free up some cap space at some time, whether that's a classic buyout or a trade. If you're trading LeBanc or traded Brent Burns, somebody like that, you're going to have to free up some cap space. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. So let's just kind of look at the top 50 guys right now, and we can kind of look at the list as a whole, see who the Sharks could actually really afford, and then kind of go from there. So again, since we're on YouTube, I did make some fancy graphics here. Boom, boom, boom. Let me get rid of this. So yeah, it might be a little hard to see, but Johnny Gaudreau, the Sharks can't afford him. He's going to cost like at least $10 million, especially after the season. Philip Forsberg, and like these guys, the Sharks can't really afford. Kadri, not going to afford. Klingberg, like if you're trading Brent Burns at $8 million to re-sign Klingberg at 7 years for $7 million, I know he's much younger. You're kind of just in the same exact position that you were in before. So again, I don't think the Sharks are going to be looking at that. Chris Letang, I'm I think the Penguins are going to do everything they can to kind of keep that core together for one last time. Evander Kane, he might be on the Sharks, but not for reasons that they want. So we're just going to skip that. Malkin, again, I think the Penguins are going to try to do everything they can, keep this core together. One last run. I know these guys are getting older, but like they're going to, try to bandage it together for one last run and see what they can do. You got guys like Strome and Perron, Darcy Kemper, the goalie, Claude Giroux, who I think, he's still pretty good, but I think he wants to win a cup. So I don't think the Sharks are kind of a landing spot for him. So, then you guys have like Andrew Copp, who we'll talk about here in a little bit. Burakovsky, Palat, Trocheck, which we'll talk about. Niederreiter, Marc-Andre Fleury. Again, I think he's going to want to go win a cup, try to win a cup before he leaves, or he might just retire. Josh Manson, the defenseman, Nick Paul. A lot of these guys here we're starting to kind of wade into the territory of who the Sharks might want to try to sign and add to them. So I want to look at the forwards because I feel like that's their kind of biggest need. I know with the defense, the defense is still a hot mess, and they're going to have questions back there, especially if they do buy out Vlasic and Burns and stuff like that. But I don't think they're going to go from such a huge defensive payroll to another huge defensive payroll by, if they jettison one of these guys, and I don't think they're just going to go sign another long-term high-priced defenseman. I think they're going to try to focus on the front end, and hopefully that your offense can help your defense a lot, not put them in such bad positions. So some other kind of guys of note, Evan Rodriguez, who started out this year on fire, but then kind of slowed down. Paul Stastny, Cal Yarncroc, Matthias Janmark, Sharks legend, part of that, the three-way trade that got him to Vegas. So Phil Kessel, I think if he's going anywhere, he's probably going to go try to latch on and win one more cup type of thing. So, but yeah, no, there's some guys here. So we want to kind of look at who the Sharks could add again to try to really improve their scoring depth, because the scoring is poo-poo, I guess we've all seen. So, what is Kessel's stance on street tacos? I don't know. I guess is a taco and a hot dog. I guess they're cousins, maybe. We'll see. But again, I don't think Phil Kessel wants to come to the Sharks, especially after being on the Coyotes. They've been a bad team, and just be like, go from a bad team to a mediocre team. I think he wants to try to go out on top type of thing. So I wouldn't be surprised if he goes to a contender to try to add some scoring depth, contender type of thing. So, but before we continue, got to take a quick break and talk about our friends over at BetOnline. You guys know BetOnline is the number one source for all your betting stats and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, news, and odds, including basketball finals matchup, NHL conference finals, Major League Baseball, and of course, all the latest fighting news from MMA to UFC to boxing. BetOnline is your continuous source for all your sports wagering information, including live betting, esports. Head to their website today. Use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Also, we have a favor to ask you guys. We put together a survey so we can learn more about our listeners like you and make your favorite Locked On podcasts like this one even better. This is your opportunity to tell us what you like and don't like about Locked On Podcasts. So go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey right now to get started. It won't take very long, and everyone that completes the survey can qualify for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Ticketmaster gift cards. So take our audience survey, go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey. Thanks for your help. Okay. Let's get back to we talked about some of the guys on here. The Sharks are looking for scoring depth, and that's where I present number one. Valeri Nichushkin from the Avs. So winger, 27 years old, had 25 goals, 27 assists. He might be a little pricey for the Sharks, though. He is projected from Evolving Hockey at 7 years, $6.357 million a year for that contract. So might be a little bit expensive. The Sharks would definitely have to do some cap management things. I mean, but we've seen teams like Vegas and stuff like that where they've worked around it, and he is a legitimate goal scorer. I mean, he scored 25 goals this year for the Avs, and that would have been like second on the Sharks behind Hurdle and Timo Meier. Just insane production. So, I mean, I know on the Avalanche that was sixth on their team. That would have been, again, like I said, I think that would have been third. So, this year was his big breakout year. He scored 25 goals this year. Last year he had 10. The year before that he had 13. He was originally a Dallas draft pick and really couldn't kind of catch on with them. But then once he got to Colorado, really kind of found his footing with them. In his 3 years with Colorado, he played 182 games and had 100 points in there. So that's pretty solid production. But like I said, this year really kind of took it to the next level. Was playing almost 20 minutes a night. He had 19 minutes a night average time on ice. And then in the playoffs this year, I know their playoffs aren't done yet, but he's in the 14 games, he's had 5 goals, 4 assists, and 9 points as well. So, and then I even got his fancy stats from Evolving Hockey, and that is a beautiful, beautiful chart there. So not only is he driving 85th percentile on offense, he's also 96th percentile in defense. You can play, he's a two-way winger. You can play both, both ends of the ice. He's going to be one of the bells of the ball. So there is a thing though. Yeah. Jack Olson brings up playing with Colorado. You have a lot of amazing talent around you. So, that is one thing you have to be wary of, is playing this much, playing with that type of talent. But he does drive offense. That's good to see. I mean, I don't think he's going to score 25 goals with the Sharks, but could he score, 20? That remains to be seen. So let's go on to the next guy. Vincent Trocheck. He's a center for the Carolina Hurricanes. 20, as he'll be 29 when the season starts. Last year had 21 goals, 30 assists. His contract is a 4 years, $5.951 million contract. So I think this would help kind of really shore up the center position, where you could have Hurdle, who's your C. Trocheck could be your 2C, and then Couture, who I think I'm going to do an episode on next week, really kind of slide into the defensive 3C position that he's been kind of playing. And then that would give, and then your 4C, you can, if you want to run Bordelot there, if you want to run, like, you could kind of figure out that position, or if you want to run Bordelot, if you want to run Bordelot on the wing, I still think Couture, I mean, I know people have been calling to put him on the wing, but like, I think he could be, if he's your 3C, I think you're looking really good. Is he overpaid as a 3C? Yes. But if he's your defensive 3C and he's not having to carry as much offense, he can just focus on being like a shutdown defenseman, or shutdown defensive center. I think that role for him in this stage, he'd be very, very, very good at it. And that just then you can have two like really balanced offensive lines. So if we pull up Trocheck's, his stats, so they're not as fancy and as fun as they're not as fancy as fun, but like they're still positive, right? So he's 59th percentile offense, 68th percentile defense. So, I feel like with him and Couture, you could kind of, if maybe Couture's on a hot streak, you can move him up to the second line, Trocheck down to the third line. Like it gives you more options, and then you can put guys on the wing around them. So if you want to have Nick Bonino, who looked much better playing on the wing last season, you have your Barabanov, Meyer, you've got Dahlin, Eklund, Bonino, Rudy, like it gives you more options. And then if LeBanc comes back or whatever, like I think it just gives you more options to really strengthen that center position. And then you can kind of figure out the wings from there. So, all right, next guy, Andrew Copp. This guy's a Copp. Currently plays for the Rangers. Was traded this season from Winnipeg at the deadline. He'll be 28 that started next season. He had 21 goals, 32 assists between the Rangers and the Jets. He also lost stage here. He's scheduled to make at 4 years $5.768 million. So it's a little pricey, but I think the Sharks could budget this one a little bit better than kind of some of the other guys. He's definitely like not as much of a goal scorer. I mean, he had 21 goals, like I said, between the two teams this year. He had 15 for Winnipeg last year, 10, 11. So in his 8 years with Winnipeg, he played almost 500 games and had 74 goals during that time. So not as much of a goal scorer. And I don't know if they're looking for a more pure goal scorer, but and then in the playoffs this year, he has played 18 games, 6 goals, 7 assists, 13 points. So he's kind of had some scoring when they needed it the most. So his stats. So 82nd percentile overall, 75 percentile offense, 83rd percentile defense. He doesn't really draw penalties, and but he doesn't really take penalties. So that's fine. But again, he's going to help you bring offense. He's not going to kill, and I think in the defensive zone, I don't think he's like a shutdown defenseman or like defensive forward. But I think he can, he's not going to kill you defensively. So again, good to kind of budget him a little bit better. He does play wing, so you're still kind of stuck in the wing position of having to play Couture second line center. And I don't know where Couture is at right now. If you can really count on him to be a second line center on a playoff team. So, but I think, like I said, that is a discussion for a different day. So next, Frankie Vetrano. Frankie also plays for the Rangers, left winger, 28 years old, 18 goals, 14 assists this year, was traded from the Panthers on a salary dump to the Rangers. His contract is at 4 years, $3.921 million. So again, a little bit easier to kind of fit that in the budget there. So he's interesting because while he produced, he didn't really get too much ice time, especially on the Panthers, and that's with how loaded that team was. It was hard for him, I think, to kind of crack those top 6 minutes just because that Panthers team was insanely loaded, even though they petered out in the playoffs. But like I said, this year had 18 goals, 14 assists. He had 10 goals for the Panthers and then 8 goals for the Rangers in 22 games when he got traded before the deadline. In the playoffs, he's also in 18 games, he's potted 8 goals and 8 assists during that time. But like I said, his ice time with the Panthers, it was down to 12 minutes a night with them just because hard for him to kind of crack. But going back, so in his the 18-19 season, he had 24 goals in 81 games. The 19-20, he had 16. 20-21, he had 18. And then another 18 this year, and that was with his ice time declining. So again, he might be one of those guys where you can kind of maybe you take a flyer on him. He isn't going to cost you as much as the other guys, and see if maybe with a little bit more ice time, if he can kind of continue to get you that like 20 to 25 goal mark. I think that the Sharks are really, really looking for. So, but you're still worried about that center position with the Sharks. So, and then his numbers. So again, he doesn't drive as much offense. He's okay to, 44th percentile offense, 65th percentile defense. But like I said, I think he's been able to produce given, actual real goals, given the limited ice time. So, before we get to the last guy, if you guys want to see someone on the list, like I'm more than happy to look at their projected contracts, like their fancy stats. I'm more than happy to pull that up. So, drop some names in the list. I will be, I'll spend the last like 10, 15 minutes here talking about those guys. So just if anybody you guys want to see in particular, I'm more than happy to pull up their stuff for you guys. So, and then, I didn't pull up the last one. Fudgesicles. So the last one I will have to kind of I forgot to make the slide for him. So is Mason Marchment. So he play also with the Panthers this year. Not going to cost as much. I'm all out of sorts here. Sorry. Not going to cost as much as the other guys, but he's kind of interesting too because his fancy stats are kind of like crazy good. So he is 26. He'll be 27 when the next season starts. He hasn't really gotten much. He's a little bit slower developer. 54 games this year with the Panthers. He's playing about 14 minutes time on ice. 18 goals, 29 assists, 47 points there. But pulling up his fancy stats. So he's a 94th percentile player, 84th percentile offense, 90th percentile defense. Like he drives offense. So, and his contract is projected at 3 years, less than $2.5 million. So he is a guy who the Sharks could be able to take a flyer on. It's not going to cost them too much just because he's, again, like it's $2.5 million. And if he can bring you 20 goals a season at $2.5 million, that's the type of punch that the Sharks need. And, I think he can kind of play all the positions. I don't know. I think he would. It's tough with the Sharks where I still think they need to find that second line center to let Couture kind of play that third line center role. But, that I think especially with the Sharks being so kind of penny pinching right now, he might be a guy where his fancy stats look good. And maybe if you give him a bigger role, might be able to produce more, but you don't have to worry about not being able to play with the talent around him as he's playing with the Panthers. But, he could be potentially a guy to look at. Lick Mishak from Bez. I checked. His fancy stats are terrible. He's unable to get. He's 69th percentile in offense and defense. Just unable to get anything going in either end. So, yeah, sorry, no Lick Mishak. But anybody else you guys want to see? Let's see. Check in the comments here. Nick Paul's going to be, BSC said, Nick Paul and Mason Marchment. Again, I don't think Mason Marchment is going to get overpaid. Evolving Hockey's contract projections are pretty solid. If you go back and look at like what guys get paid and what they project, they're really, really close. They might be off, a couple $100,000 here and there, but they're really, really solid. And, they're a really good basis for what guys actually get paid. Unless it's a crazy thing like, Kevin LeBanc getting his $1 million contract, something like that. Nick Paul, if you guys are interested. So he is projected to sign with, right now he's on Tampa, is projected to sign with a different team. 4 years, he's projected at 4 years, $3.44 million. I don't remember I'll pull up his fancy stats right now. I don't think they're like super great. Let's see. So he is he's 62 percentile. He's more defense. So he's 36 percentile offense and 85 percentile defense. So again, I don't know if he fits what the Sharks are trying to do of trying to just add more of that offense. So, that's if you guys have anybody else, again, I think kind of wrap it up for the Sharks trying to add a legitimate scoring punch who can add another 20 to 25 goals. In a perfect world, adding somebody who can move Logan Couture from that second line center into a third line center where I think he's at this stage in his career is kind of better suited. Kind of take some minutes off him where he's not having to do everything offensively and also be kind of a shutdown center. So being able to do that way you don't have to, again, if you have your Hurdle-Meyer combo and whatever winger, if it's Barabin, Oliver Eklund, or whoever the winger du jour of the day, trying to find somebody who can center that second line is going to cost you, definitely. But if the Sharks want to make it to the playoffs, I think trying to get some of their resources out of the defensive end and put it back into the offense, and then hoping that your offense can carry your defense and not having to do so much defensively, so whether, again, if that's trading Brent Burns, which who knows, I don't think it's going to happen, but if it's buying out Vlasic and trying to free up somebody that way, or if you trade Kevin LeBlanc, part of package him up with something else, who knows? But the Sharks just don't have a lot of ammo for the trade market. So that's why I think maybe they try to go, I don't want to say big game hunting here, but if they can try to get a second line center to really kind of help solidify that middle, and, having Hurdle second line center, Couture, that's a really solid start. And then that doesn't put pressure on Bordelot to have to come out of, make the camp out of the team and be your third line center. Because, we 2 years ago, we played that game with, Dylan Gambrell / Noah Gregor / Sasha Shimolevsky, I think, got a look like it's, those guys just weren't suited to be third line centers. And then last year, Nick Bonino, we saw last year where he started out slow, couldn't really add that scoring line. And then, once he played on the wing, like there was some, he started to pop off there a little bit. But I still think, even if you move Couture to the wing, you still have a huge center problem where there's just not enough good centermen. And, I like Bordelot a lot. I think Bordelot is going to be really good, but I think that's a lot to ask of a rookie to come in and just be like, hey, you're a third line center. And I know he showed well in 8 games last year, but doing it for 82 games is much different thing. So yeah, that's going to be it for me tonight. Thank you guys for coming in and hanging out. Again, if you guys have subscribed, please do so on YouTube. I'm going to be trying to do these every Thursday. So I'll come with the topic, and then we can kind of chat and see what's going on. So I got a massive interview for next week. So you guys are going to subscribe for that. I think that one's going to be running on Tuesday. And then next week, we're also going to be looking at maybe a trade for pasta. That might be a fun topic for a nice Monday kickoff. So, of course, you can find me on the old social medias on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can find the show at Locked On Sharks. You can listen wherever you get podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Odyssey, YouTube. We're over 950. Thank you guys for subscribing. We're over 850. Thank you guys for subscribing. Once we get to 900, I went to Sharks team. I have 3 still in the package of the fan teal together jerseys. They're even sticky because my child on the bag sticky because my child spilled lemonade. So at 900, I'm going to be doing a live show on a Thursday and give away 3 of these. So I have 1 big one and 2 kind of medium-sized ones. So yeah, make sure you guys subscribe. Hit that little bell so you know whenever we go live and do all that fun stuff. Again, the goal is to try to get to 1,000 before the draft. So yeah, and then go check out the Locked On NHL show if you want to catch up what's going on in the playoffs, or go check out one of the other amazing shows on the Locked On Network, such as Locked On Giants. Your pick. San Francisco, New York, either one. Yes, that is a nice X-Wing. Bye, friends.